Congratulations on the album. I've had a chance to sit down and take a listen to it, and it's an amazing album, so congratulations.
Thank you so much. We've been waiting literally forever to put it out, so I'm stoked that we have finally been able to put it out and share it.
So tell us a little bit about how that's felt for you. Like, this is such an important album for the band, but you've had to sit on it for so long. How has that felt for all of you?
Well, it's like, there's always like a little bit of a scary aspect to it, because it's like, well, what if these songs, like, musically just aren't relevant anymore by the time they come out? Like, this song Plagued, I started writing the song Plagued almost 3 years ago now.
Yep.
And it's on an album that we put out, last month. So, like, is it still going to be relevant, or is it going to sound like, oh shit, they wrote that song 3 years ago? Thankfully, all of our fans seem to think that everything still sounds really relevant, which is great. I really appreciate and like that. It makes me feel pretty good that we are able to create songs that don't sound dated or like they belong in a certain era. They just sound good and people want to hear them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the album was done in April of last year, and so we've just been sitting on it for a year and a half and just waiting and waiting. And it's like, by the time we put it out last month, it had been 5 years since we put out an album. And it's like, are people even still going to care about our band? The general album cycle is getting like shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
Now it's like, bands are releasing singles every 2 to 3 months and an album every year, as opposed to, an album every 2 years, and you release a few singles right before that album. So waiting 5 years to put out an album, but receiving the support that we did from our fans and the streaming numbers and everything was like mind-blowing to me, that all of our fans, and then some new fans that are listening to us for the first time, really, really cared about the album and what we had to say about it.
We did have a worldwide pandemic in the middle of all that as well. Was that the major factor behind the album being held up after you'd recorded it?
Yeah, so it's funny because that, like, it was really good and really bad for the album. It was really good because we weren't on tour, and writing a record when you're on tour is fucking terrible. It is not fun, and it is really hard to do. And so being home and having all of that time to write and record all these demos, by the time we went into the studio with Drew Folk, we had like 30 demos. We had more music than we've ever had before by, over double. And so, like, that was awesome. But then, due to the lockdown, the pandemic, everything, there was a lot of supply chain issues with vinyl, with making actual physical records. And so because of that, we weren't able to put out the record that we spent 2 years writing.
Yeah.
Because there was not enough vinyl to actually make physical copies of it.
Going into the studio with 30 demos, did that then create a little bit of a problem with which tracks do we have on the album and which tracks do we don't, and how did that process work?
Yeah, I mean, so we sat down with Drew, Dave, Andy, and I, we sat down with Drew, and we literally, it sounds so, like, dorky, we made an Excel spreadsheet of all of our demos, and then we all voted on them, how we felt about them, green, yellow, and red. Green was like, absolutely, this has to go on the album. Yellow was like, maybe we can work on it and it can become something that could go on the album. And red was just like, I'm not feeling this one, I don't think we need it. And so, we all had our opinions on the different songs, and we just made the general rule that if someone was really feeling red about a song, we just weren't going to question it. We were just going to trust it that, maybe that wasn't the right move for us. So we were able to cut a few there, and then, we talked about the yellow ones and what we would need to do to make them worthy of getting one of the 10 spots on the record. And then we looked at what we had left, and then we looked at the lyrical value. Like, are we just saying the same thing over and over and over again? Or are we talking about new emotions in every song? Are we talking about this in a different way? Because every song on the record is about our grieving process as a band losing Kyle.
Yeah.
But we can't just write 10 songs in a row that are like, I'm fucking depressed. Track 2, I'm still depressed. Track 3, guess what? We're depressed. Like, that's not helpful to anyone. That's not artistically creative at all.
Yep.
And that's not what we went through. The grieving process isn't just you being sad all the time. And honestly, I didn't really know that until we lost Kyle. I'd never dealt with a loss like that in my life before. And so, like, throughout the past 4 years, I'm learning what the grieving process is. We all are. And there's a ton of different emotions that we had felt through that. And we wanted to make sure that each one of those got its own place on the record, and that we weren't just saying the same thing over and over again. So there were some songs that I really loved, songs that were great, that ended up not making the record because it was way too close to something that I'd already written lyrically, and we didn't want to be saying the same thing.
Yeah. Do you think we'll ever see any of those songs in the future, like on a special album or released as special singles or anything like that, or are they in the vault forever?
I don't know. I've thought about it. I've thought about going back and just rewriting lyrics because if the music and the vocal melodies are there, that's awesome, and maybe we can think about something else that we'd want to write about and be able to kind of creatively work around that and turn those songs that used to be about one topic into something completely different. Or maybe we start writing new music and we like that even more than the other stuff we had. Yeah. I don't know. It's I'm not going to write it off forever and say that those songs are just dead and locked away, but when it comes time to start making new music, it's definitely something that I want to at least give a minute to revisit.
Yeah. You talked about this album being about Kyle, and this is about the grieving process for the band. Did you find that a kind of liberating feeling being able to write about that, or did you find it very tough? Because I'll be honest, I lost a partner about 20 years ago, and I've never been able to write about her in any form at all. So did you find it an easy process to write, or was it more a liberating process?
I'll just be 100% honest. Like, it fucking sucked. It was terrible. It was, I wrote the majority of these lyrics in like the most depressed slump of my life, and they definitely didn't help me get out of that. But I think what it did do was it gave us the opportunity to address those feelings then, so there's a potential in the future to start to heal and to start to be able to hear these songs and play these songs and not just immediately go back to that depression and not just immediately regress to those feelings. I think it opened the door to a potential that one day these songs will be therapeutic to hear, and it'll help in the grieving process. Because all these songs were written like right in the middle of it, right in all of the quote, the hard stuff, and there are some songs on the record now that I can listen to that don't make me immediately sad, that help me, think of a memory I had with Kyle, or think of, a way that my band is pushed forward that makes me so proud of them, or elicit a different emotion other than sadness. Yeah. But I don't think that possibility would have existed if I wasn't in the shit, in the depths, and writing all of those songs.
Yeah. Did that almost put an extra pressure on you with this album as well? Because normally you would go into the studio with the goal of, we're going to write the 10 best tracks that we can at the moment. But this album is different. It's it's for a fallen brother, it's for the fans, and it's for Kyle's family in a way. Did that put an added pressure on you that you felt at all?
Kind of and kind of not. You know, normally when we're writing an album, we want to write tracks that first we think are awesome and we're going to have fun playing and we like, and then we want to make sure that our fans enjoy it and that, you know, it's something that they would like too. And when we wrote this album, it was really just like, let's write an album that Kyle would have loved. Yeah. And like that was the focus, and there was less focus on what other people would think of it, which is funny because when we finished the album, and, you know, for a year and a half, I'm just listening to it front to back because I'm incredibly proud of it. You know, I started to realize that I think without trying, this is probably the most relatable music we've ever written, the most relatable lyrics that I've ever put out. And I think that our fans are really connecting to them. And that wasn't, honestly, that wasn't a focus at all. It was, let's write songs that Kyle's going to love. And then we ended up writing songs that I think Kyle would have loved, and I think our fans also really connect to. So, I mean, it's great. I'm so happy that it worked out that way. But, you know, the focus on writing this record was definitely different than writing our past records.
Yeah. I was going to ask that. Is this, have you found so far with this album that it's been an album that fans have sat down and listened to, and they've reached out to you then and told you about their own grieving process of when they've lost someone close to them?
Yeah, I mean, so we're doing a headlining tour in the States in January, February. And, you know, with every headliner, every band ever, you know, you sell your VIP, your meet and greet tickets, where really that's like the best time to have a conversation with a fan. You know, it's before doors open, there's not loud music blasting. You know, you're not in the gen pop of an entire show with 1,000 people there trying to make conversation. And that's really where I find it's like easiest to connect with a fan and hear those stories. And, I don't mean this at all in like a bragging way, but I think we only have 3 tickets left, 3 meet and greet tickets left for the entire tour. Like all of the meet and greets are sold out. And I really think when we do that tour, there's going to be a lot of conversations had every day with our fans, about the record and about, you know, maybe personally how it affected them. And I'm honestly really excited for it. It's like, you know, that's the reason that we started the band in the first place when I was 15 years old.
Yep.
Was to hopefully connect with people and hopefully attempt to make some kind of difference in the world, you know. So to be able to be doing that now, potentially the most that we've ever done it before, is like incredible to me. It's pretty mind blowing to think that's, you know, even a possibility for our band, that we're even still a band, that we're even still around, but that we, you know, we get to connect with our fans on that level.
Definitely. Josh, I'm noticing we're running out of time very, very quickly, and I don't want to keep you over time. So to finish off, what would you like to say to your Australian fans out there? Are there plans for a tour in the future? And what would you like to say to them about now that the album is out there, but also maybe to listeners out there who haven't listened to the album yet? The floor's yours. What would you like to say to them?
Well, first off, I would absolutely love to get back over there. I think international touring and international travel is getting like closer and closer to the quote back to normal that it was before the lockdown and before all of that. And, you know, our band has always been an internationally traveling band, and literally my favorite international place to go is Australia. So I would kill to be able to get back there at some point. We're trying our best. To anyone that hasn't listened to the record, I recommend it. I think it's, you know, the best music that my band has ever put out. Specifically, track number 6, called One More Day, is my favorite song on the record, and I think that you will enjoy it if you listen to it.